Armored Core 6 is freaking hard. Well, kinda. Let's get into it. I've been absolutely adoring playing Armored Core 6. It's been an absolute blast from the past in my childhood, and I've forgotten just how much I missed this series. And the formula has seen a few revisions, and honestly, I've been loving the single player. A mode for Armored Core that I just never really got into. At least when I was a kid, but now I'm positively engrossed in it. But there's been one main point of conversation popping up around Armored Core 6, surrounding its single player, and that is the difficulty. You see, Armored Core 6 is by FromSoft. If you don't know them, they're the people who made Dark Souls, and Bloodborne, and Sekiro, and Elden Ring. Yeah, you know what type of game this is going to be, but it's actually, funnily enough, way more generous and forgiving than those games. Well, for an easy reason. It's Armored Core. It's not Dark Souls. Though, depending upon who you watch on this site, maybe your opinion on that may be skewed a little bit. Because Armored Core 6 has a few bosses that are absolute walls for people. Probably the most famous one being Balteus, who is this end boss from the end of Chapter 1. He's like the culmination of the entire mission, and forces you to understand how the game works and the gameplay mechanics in order to pass him. Now, you could run a non-optimized build against him, but this is Armored Core, not Soulsborne. The name of the game in Armored Core is to augment your mech on a moment-by-moment basis to suit the situation. And it's a formula that I've been finding absolutely rewarding and fun. But like with any other FromSoft game, the conversation surrounding difficulty options in gaming always rears its head, because these games especially tend to perform well. And Armored Core is like the other FromSoft games. There's no actual difficulty option. The game just gives you a bunch of tools at your kit and says, okay, find a way to beat the boss. And for me, I love that design. I love the idea that it's only me and my own decision making against this boss and not other difficulty options existing. If I want to see the rest of this game, I have to beat it the way it was intended, the way it was designed on this difficulty. And while some may not vibe with that, I do. And it adds to the experience for me. Balteus was an epic encounter for me, one of my favorite boss fights in recent years. He took me about 31 tries in total, at least 31 pulls. But I did manage to down him after like an hour and a half, if that. Because over the course of the fight, I learned the game, I learned its mechanics, I learned the audio cues, I swapped up my build a little bit, and I just got good. And when Balteus finally went down, it was a feeling of success. An achievement that was hard fought and hard won, but was uniquely my own. It's a feeling FromSoft games are able to elicit because they understand interesting difficulty more often and at least more consistently than I tend to find a lot of other companies. Most of the time when it comes to games, I tend to find the difficulty boils down to just arbitrarily bloated health pools or exaggerated damage values, designed to make this encounter more punishing than it is actually mechanically difficult and interesting to perform. But when it comes to FromSoft games, sure, some bosses tend to be a little bit health spongy, but apply the right strategy, you can learn the fight and get a pure rhythm going. And with the sheer speed and pace of Armored Core 6, on top of the visual effects, when you nail down the dance, oh, it's a beautiful choreography to behold. And one of the funniest things I've been running into is going back to Balteus, just to test my mettle and my skills and my newest acquisitions to my mech, and then absolutely steamrolling him. I had to implement my own arbitrary difficulty option for Balteus by not utilizing a health pack, just to actually add a sense of danger to that fight again. Like earlier today, I went back into Balteus with dual Zimmermans and dual bubble guns, and I freaking wrecked him the first try. I had to use a health pack, so I decided, let's redo the fight until I nail it down. And then eventually I melted him. Sure, the Zimmermans in my kit are overall better, but my skill was also better as well. I dodged missiles more consistently. I took less damage unless I was playing exceedingly greedy. Not only did my AC itself get better, but I got better as a player. And encounters that used to give me difficulty on top of the new equipment that I received later on rolled over because I knew what I was doing. And when you combine getting stronger equipment with just becoming a better player, it made me feel powerful as an Armored Core player. And it was a feeling I find absolutely fun and engaging when it comes to Armored Core 6. The rest of the game, funnily enough, and I'm in the latter stages of Chapter 3, I believe, the rest of the game outside of Balteus and that first tutorial boss haven't really been difficult. Nothing's taken me more than like 5 tries, if that. And I don't know if it's because the game itself is extremely easy, outside of a few walls, or if Balteus just really taught me how to play the game. And I think it's a combination of both. Now, I know there are supposed to be some rather difficult encounters later on, and I'm looking forward to them, but right now, Armored Core 6 just has a fun flow to it. It's not going to be as consistently brutal and difficult as the other Soulsborne games, because there's a fundamental difference there. It's not Dark Souls. It's not Elden Ring. It's not Bloodborne, and it's not Sekiro. It is Armored Core. It is a game designed to make you feel fast, brutal, and effective, adapting on the fly, changing your builds for better equipment to suit the situation. The game is a game of rock, paper, scissors, and you can press the restart button at your convenience. I have a little bit of a system where when I come across a rather difficult encounter where I feel like I need some heavier firepower, what I'll do is I'll swap over to Tank Tread's dual chain gun. I'll have rockets on my back and I'll just obliterate everything that I'm fighting, and it feels great because Armored Core, at the end of the day, feels like a power fantasy because it is. You are in a giant mech. You are very flexible and adaptive. And whether or not you want to engage in those practices and augmentations to your AC is up to you, but if you'd want to, then you can reap the benefits, and I find that so much fun. I like how the different Armored Cores all play differently. Whether or not using a tetrapod, tank treads, or a biped, you play differently. You can equip different things. You may be more mobile on the ground or in the air, or less mobile, or whatever. You build your AC to suit the situation, and on top of the customization the game has on offer, it makes your AC feel uniquely yours, and I really appreciate that about mech games, especially about Armored Core. It gives me the satisfying gameplay loop that I like out of a FromSoft game, but on top of the power fantasy that I like out of Mecha. It's fun, massively replayable, and just interesting for me. But I'm also in two minds about having difficulty options in this game. Whereas I would argue in Dark Souls specifically, having difficulty options would undermine the actual artistic vision and message the game is trying to distill into you as the player, here in Armored Core 6, there is another message that I can understand as a defense against having difficulty options, and that is, the game kinda has them, just in an untraditional way. What the game does is, if you want to run an unoptimized build, you can absolutely go do that and try out your metal and test your luck. Or, if you want to learn the game and learn each situation, if you equip certain things for certain fights, you can roll through this game. Remember that Gatling gun build on the tank treads I was just talking about? Yeah, that kind of wipes the floor with a lot of encounters in this game. You just kind of have to use your head every now and then and identify what each fight is trying to give you. There's this one fight that had a weakness on the top of its head. So what did I use? I used a tetrapod, floated above it with dual chain guns, and I laid into it. And I melted that boss relatively quickly and painlessly. Only took me like 2 or 3 tries. And that's only because I got cocky and greedy. And that's an idea and a style that I think FromSoft tends to do extremely well, and better than a lot of others in the industry, and that is having natural difficulty options in the game, just in the nature of what the sandbox is on offer. Yeah, the kit, the sandbox of Armored Core 6, is not balanced. It's not meant to be. If you want to have a tougher time of it, you can do the time trials. Or, if you just want raw difficulty, choose a less optimized build. You don't have to use the chain guns. Nothing's forcing you to use them. They're there and on offer if you want to use them though, and they're extremely powerful. The only trade-off is that you'll probably get less money in the end, because of just ammunition costs, but once you have dual chain guns and like a really good back weapon or two, you're kinda golden. Just swap out your legs as needed and you can pretty much solve whatever situation you run into. Oh, this boss has a plasma shield or whatever it's called. Pull out a bubble gun. If you die, you can just swap out your loadout, restart the boss. You don't have to do a run back or redo the mission or anything. Equip a bubble gun, blast through its shield, and then just tack its health. You have options available to you as the player. They just aren't masqueraded as easy, normal, or hard mode. And I think there's a beauty in that design. If you want to use an unoptimized build for bragging rights, you absolutely can go do that. You'll just need to make up the difference between your unoptimized build with skill, and you can do that. Or if you want to engage in the power fantasy that is Armored Core, you can absolutely do that as well. That's the beauty of this game. It's also the beauty of Elden Ring in a lot of ways. It's just Elden Ring does it in a dark fantasy setting. Armored Core just gives you a mech that is highly customizable. The only difference is you can't just face roll it, you have to understand each situation. A lot of the game you can face roll because most of the regular enemies are just kind of like paperweights. They're there to help you feel extremely powerful so that when that boss comes into play, you understand, oh, this dude's built different from everyone else. It's massive in scope and brilliant in the breadth of variety in the gameplay options. And I freaking love it. I really do. It's an entertaining difficulty, where whenever I mess up, I know it's on me. And when I'm blaming myself and not the game for a death, that is a fun, difficult game in my opinion. And I don't think Armored Core needs to be consistently difficult at all times to be engaging and fun. Having peaks and troughs is good, it's healthy. It varies up the experience. It honestly adds to my immersion in the world, so I don't just feel like the weakest thing ever. No, when I'm rocking up with dual Zimmermans, you better watch out if you're not a mini-boss or a boss. And even if you're a mini-boss, I may just go through you anyways. I like that. I don't have to run that build. I can run lesser equipment. Hell, I can probably run other equipment on my back if I do that. But I have the option. The game's all about giving the player options. It's all about player agency. And that is fun, rewarding, and inspired, in my opinion. It makes me care about the sandbox on offer. It makes me care about each and every weapon and what pros and cons that it may have. Oh, this boss tends to be on the ground? Maybe I want napalm instead of a regular rocket, because I may be able to make use of the napalm stacks. Oh, this enemy has a pretty long stun duration. If it can fill its stagger gauge. Okay, I can pull in a pile bunker and get some big damage in on those windows. You know what? This enemy's not taking a lot of damage to kinetic weaponry. Maybe I'll pack a laser shotgun or a laser rifle or whatever, a laser cannon, or vice versa. I have these options at my disposal. The game doesn't hamstring you or force you upon one path. All you do is you buy the weapon and it's yours and you can equip it whenever you want. Make your build, customize your mech. It's great, I love that. It's difficulty done right, like FromSoft tends to do. And I think having difficulty options be solely designated as either easy, normal, or hard mode really undermines the capabilities that difficulty options can be and the fun and engaging ways that can be implemented into these games. Because I would absolutely say that tank treads and dual chain guns with missiles on your back, and not the missile pods, I'm talking like the rockets, you know? If you know, you know. That build can be easy mode for a lot of encounters in this game. But it's also really fun. And that's the point of Armored Core. Throw your head against the wall, learn it, augment yourself, be better. And if you want a harder time of it, go for an S rank or use less optimized builds. And if you just want to run through the game and let slip the dogs of war, you can do that as well. It's so much fun. I just want to play it some more, honestly. And you know what? I think I will. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games if you can, and as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.